A new huge gameplay trailer just dropped at Exilecon. Well, gameplay trailer is really not doing it justice. It was a gameplay walkthrough of half an hour for Act 3 of Path of Exile 2, which, huge news, is going to be a standalone game. Initially, GGG said that Path of Exile 2 would be like an updated Path of Exile 1, and it was going to change the game significantly. However, it seems like they kind of walked back on that and decided that it would be much better to keep Path of Exile 1 hopefully more fast, a bit more chaotic, and Path of Exile 2 more slow, methodical, more skilled gameplay, which I think is absolutely amazing, because there was going to be this slight separation between Path of Exile 1 campaign and Path of Exile 2 campaign if Path of Exile 2 was just going to be an expansion either way, because that's the way they said they were going to do it. But having these games be in the same universe and be completely different styles of play seems just great, and we also get to keep most of the skills that have been introduced so far in PoE 1. We get to keep all the microtransactions that we paid for, such as stash tabs, such as MTX, and all that in both games, which is absolutely amazing in my opinion, and I think in everyone's opinion. And you might think that this isn't as surprising and this is the thing that should have been done, and why am I giving them praise for this? Well, considering the gaming landscape has been very for profit for a few years now, seeing something like this just really makes me hopeful again for the future of video games. But besides this, what other things will Path of Exile 2 have that are worth getting hyped about? Because it's not returning to a world of grit and despair, even though the world looks absolutely amazing, as you might have seen in the gameplay that I was showing on screen from Exilecon, which is also on the official Path of Exile YouTube channel. I'll leave a link in the description to the whole half an hour video if I remember, where it's not only gameplay shown, but it's also Chris talking about the game and telling you a lot more in detail things that I'm about to tell you right now in a few minutes. There's also dodge rolling, which I think is crazy, but I think is so necessary in a game like they are trying to make with Path of Exile 2. Because as I said earlier, Path of Exile 2 is going to be a more slow and methodical and skilled game. And if you can't really dodge things in another way than just moving, just clicking on the side, then we're just going to have a Path of Exile 1 situation where you won't even bother to try to dodge things or anything of the sort. You're just going to invest a lot in defense and just let everything hit you and just kill them fast. Or if you're a ranger or something, if you're playing like a spellcaster, anything that deals damage from afar, you just kill things faster than they can hit you, or even cast things, you know? For example, in a bow build, you can just off-screen mobs and you won't even see them. So if Path of Exile 1 manages to keep all the defense options and all that, while also implementing a dodge roll, that's just going to be amazing. Especially since, as far as we've seen so far, the movement speed seems to be pretty slow, but it is just gameplay from Act 3, so that's that. There is also going to be 12 character classes. I repeat, 12 character classes. This is double, almost, than what we have right now, because we have 7 character classes. Obviously, each of the 12 characters classes will have 3 ascendancies, just like we're used to in Path of Exile 1, which will basically result in like 36 ascendancies, 36 characters basically that you can play, which is just going to be insane. There's also a new skill gem system, and it's going to have 240 skill gems. That's strictly for skills, and there's also on top of that 200 support gems. Now, a few of them are going to be unique to Path of Exile 2, some will be taken from Path of Exile 1, just like multiple projectile support or biting cold, which is just a Path of Exile 1 support gem renamed. This one is new, for example, and these ones are really unique and are going to be unique to Path of Exile 2. The new skill gem system is quite crazy from what I've seen in the walkthrough, but it seems like a lot of fun. We also now get a chance to double specialize in our passive skill tree with passive skill points that we get from our weapons. And each time you swap your weapon, which can also happen automatically, as in you bind a skill to a certain weapon, your passive skill tree changes, just as you're seeing right now in this animation on their website. This happens every time you weapon swap, depending on how you're allocating those passive skill tree points. I'm also slightly concerned about what's going to happen to passive skill masteries, because I really thought that those were great and I really want to keep seeing them. So I hope they're not going to just delete them, and I hope we're going to get, at some point at least, some form of those passive skill tree masteries. And that's not all there is to it when it comes to weapons. For example, scepters and staves and all that were mostly useless when it came to actually auto-attacking in Path of Exile 1. Now that's changed in Path of Exile 2 in a way that staffs, staves, scepters, whatever, things like this now actually grant skills. Now this obviously isn't for every item, such as spears for example, which is a new archetype of weapons, or flails. There's a lot of new crazy things here, a lot of new items. You can pause, you can just go to Path of Exile 2 website and see these things for yourself, because they weren't really shown that much in the gameplay walkthrough. They just talked about staffs and a few variations for like a minute or two. We'll also get a completely new endgame. Now, so far we haven't really been told anything about this endgame, so there's really not much to talk about here. But big news, Path of Exile 2's campaign will be a 6-act campaign, so hopefully no longer will have to spend 10 to 15 hours if you're unexperienced just with the campaign. But even if that were to be the case, GG has told us that Path of Exile 2's campaign will be much more quote-unquote randomized. You'll get a slightly different experience each time you play the campaign, which I really hope they implement this well, because it would make even me possibly enjoy the campaign a lot more and be more willing to create new characters and play more. Now, this is just what I understood from what they told us. You shouldn't really take this at face value because it might change. It might be less random, it might be strictly the same by the time we actually get it. Because Path of Exile 2 will drop only in like a year and a half actually, which is great because I think there's still some work to do from what I've seen in the walkthrough. For example, the UI is absolutely awful. I hate the way it looks. I think it's so bad. Okay, I'm exaggerating a bit, but it doesn't look as good as it could. It feels like it has quite a few inconsistencies here and there, but then again, we also have a year and a half before the game actually drops, so I'm assuming that all my complaints about the UI and the smaller things about the game will be polished and much more presentable in a way. So yeah, that's about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Leave a like, subscribe, you know, all that. Thanks for watching. See ya.